Alright, hello everyone. I'm excited to show you this program I've been working on for the last several years called Timelinize to organize your digital life and all the data that you've been generating for the last several years and decades, and to organize that on your own computer and make it discoverable and useful to you. So anyway, this is the setup screen. First, we just need to choose where to store our timeline. So I can either paste a path here, or I can browse and choose a folder. I've already got a hard drive ready for this. I recommend choosing a storage device with plenty of space. So it's going to create a folder called My Timeline because my hard drive isn't empty, so that's fine. I'll create that. And it's going to ask me to create a profile. And this is because Timelinize is entity aware. It knows who is associated with the data that it's importing. And keeps track of that. So you can import data from multiple people and it will keep that all separate. And it wants to know who you are in this data. So I'll just fill this out here. And I have this application configured in demo mode for the purposes of the screencast, so I don't have to fill out all my personal info on the screencast. It will do that for me in the background, but you should fill out this form completely. Now this option down here is to enable a smart search or a similarity search. If you have an older or low-powered device, I recommend disabling this, but otherwise you can leave this enabled. I have an M2 MacBook Air, just an ordinary consumer laptop, and it runs it just fine because the Apple Silicon has the hardware needed for this. So if you have an Apple laptop, you're probably good to go. Okay, so this is the empty dashboard. Let's go ahead and import some data. Choose Add Files. And I have all my data in this folder called My Data Exports. And in this folder is just a bunch of files that I've collected from various places. I have location tracks from various apps and devices like my radios and own tracks and such. I've got my Facebook export and Instagram. I got my Android text messages and Google Takeout, which is a lot of zip files. I have my Twitter export and Facebook archive. So there's a lot here, and I'm just going to have Timelinize discover all of that by choosing the folder. I'm going to check Traverse Archives. What that does is it allows Timelinize to go into the zip files and find what it needs. This is really nice, so I don't have to extract my zip files and waste all that time and hard drive space just to import it into my timeline. Timelinize will just extract what it needs. So after a moment here, we'll have an import plan for us. So you can see it's found various data sources. I'll go ahead and collapse these so you can see what it found. You can see, for example, my Google Photos library and all of my Google Takeout zip files. That's good. Media is just arbitrary images and videos. This actually is all from my Google Drive, and I don't need that in this particular import, so I'm just going to remove that. I'm going to leave all the settings defaults for right now. There are various options you can set on each data source, and you can also set processing options for the entire import job, including more back here in this page. I'm going to just leave these all the defaults for right now. And we'll go ahead and start the import job. After a few seconds, the job will begin. And there we go. So you can see that it's already running. We've already got 15,000 units processed. I say units because they could be items or entities. Like I said, Timelinize makes it distinguishes between data and people or places associated with that data. In this case, the location history is all just data points, and you can see what a sample of what's being imported here. And this data is largely obfuscated because, again, for privacy reasons, you don't get to see actual names here. Most of the locations are actually probably real. Just a few are obfuscated. The timestamps are all real. The content would be obfuscated if there was any content. And the progress here is real. So this import will only take, of all that data we selected, will only take about 10 or 15 minutes, except for the photo library. That does add about 2 to 3 hours, depending on hard drive speeds, USB speeds, in my case. because that's just a lot of I/O. But I can import about 1 million items in those 10 minutes or so on this MacBook, which I think is pretty impressive. I've done some work to try and get that as fast and reliable as possible. If you get bored while watching an import job, we're cranking out over 3,000 a second here, you can click config and you can see the job configuration. You can see what to expect, what's coming next. Right now it's doing our location history. Whoop, and it just went through a bunch of other data sources and now it's doing this one. So imports are really fast. We're just under 2 minutes in. We've already imported over 250,000 items, or processed over 250,000 units. You can see that as we do text messages, some of these are entities, some of these are items, because messages are sent from and to people. And again, this is all obfuscated here. But import jobs are pretty durable. You can pause them and you can resume them. And if they get interrupted or the program crashes or your computer shuts down, the next time you run it, they will resume where they left off because jobs create checkpoints. You can also see the current progress of the job in this drop-down menu here. You don't have to leave this page open. You can navigate around. Here's our dashboard so far, now that we have some data in it, and our job is still running. You can keep an eye on it and go back to it. You can even run multiple import jobs at a time. So let me show you that. I'm going to go ahead and import my Apple messages since I am on my Mac. You can see that Timelinize recognized the iMessage data source here. So I'll go ahead and start that import. And you can see that it is starting now. So we have 2 import jobs running at the same time. You can do as many as you want. It will slow down each import because of database locks, but that's fine. Going back to our first job, we're almost 500,000 units of work in. Looks like we just finished text messages and now we're doing some social media data sources. So these are my social media posts on Facebook, images and videos I've posted there over the years. These are messages I've sent and received through Facebook Messenger before the end-to-end encryption. So lots of stuff happening here. So that's the essence of starting an import. I'm going to circle back here after these import jobs are complete or as they're nearing completion, and you can see a lot of items here being skipped. It's pretty normal. For example, these collections, these are albums that the photos are in, so it only needs to import the collection data once, and then after that it just will skip it. Some of these are updated because there's new information available for those pictures. The processor is, we try to be very smart and very efficient, so it's pretty normal to see different kinds of things happening. It's doing a lot of logic to make your imports fast and smart. So anyway, when this is done or nearly done, we'll pick up here and I'll show you what it looks like to explore your timeline. Okay, so you can see this import job is actually almost finished. We're just finishing up my Google Photos library. You can see a lot of these items are skipped. That's totally normal for Google Photos, for the Google Takeout archives. Many of the photos, if they appear in albums, actually appear twice in your export. And so Timelinize will skip duplicates. Nothing to worry about there. All right, so you can see the import job has finished with the calendar data source and has spawned 2 new jobs, one for thumbnails and one for embeddings. So in total, including iMessage, data source, which adds another about 100,000, I've got just under 1 million items or units of work that were processed. We can actually go to the thumbnails job here and see what it's doing. And it's just going to be rendering previews of the images and videos in the data set that it just imported. So now we have a fully populated dashboard, and you can see how much of recent time periods are represented in your timeline. You can see a breakdown by item type, and you can also do that per time period, such as last year or the last month or the last 5 years. We also have this bubble chart that's really nice for seeing your activity on an hourly basis over the last couple of years, and you can see which data sources were popular or busy during a certain time period. You can see when you do most of your emailing or take most of your pictures, for example. Whether it's a season, for example, I take more pictures in the summer. And it looks like iMessage, I'm also doing more activity there in the summer. So this is kind of a neat thing, and you can like zoom in and get more granular here. So let's go ahead and explore the data. So I go up here to Timeline, and I'm going to choose a day from 2022. I'm going to show you how a timeline gives you a really detailed look at an individual day, for example. So here we've started our day at this place. We're on a trip, so this is, I think, a hotel. And while at the hotel, you can see that I sent some text messages and received some text messages. And then I sent a post on Twitter, it looks like, on social media. And then we did some travel. There's some movement here on the map, some more social media posts. A couple pictures were taken. And then looks like we traveled up this road to, let's see, where were we headed? This was a Sunday, so we went to church. Makes sense. And you can see while at church, I received a text message from a good friend of mine. And then as we scroll down, we traveled back from church, and we eventually went to a forest and we did a nature walk. So I can relive this day in great detail, and as I walk around the path in this forest, you can see the pictures I took as we walked. And I think this is a really cool way to kind of relive your moments. Yeah, I'm not gonna, there's a lot here. I'm just gonna scroll by. I will show you, this was a text message, it looks like, where I sent one of the pictures to a couple friends. And again, you can kind of see everything all in one place. And then in the evening time, a couple more social media. These are actually messages sent and received on Twitter. And here's a post on Twitter, and then some more direct messages, some text messages. And notice how the map will follow my cursor. That's a more efficient way of doing things. So again, more text and social media that day before we wrapped up at night. So that's the timeline view. Very detailed, very cool way to see your days. Let me show you the map view now. So in the map view, we are going back to, again, kind of the most recent day with activity. I'm going to stop it here. I'll just kind of show you. As you hover over markers, you can kind of see a preview of what they have, or you can click on it and get a bigger view of the timeline for that particular marker. You can see also very obviously there's a heat map for all your data points. This is a sample of all your data points. And it shows you where you've been and where your hotspots are. And if you want to explore the heat map, you can easily do that. So I will show you here. We have some tools like the bounding box tool can be used to show points within a bounding box. So this is useful. And it can also do proximity search and find points within this area closest to what I selected. Now you'll notice that some of these markers are gray, and that's because these don't actually have geocoordinates like text messages, but we can put them on a map because Timelinize is entity aware, and it knows where I was at a certain time because I've imported my location history, and it knows when I received this text message, so therefore it can put it on the map. So anyway, it's that's kind of neat because now I can remember where I was when I got this text message. Okay, so let's go ahead and clear that out. And I'm going to show you a date here. Let's look at this trip. Okay, this is a trip to Hawaii. I'm going to change the map face here so you can see the colors a little better. This is currently dusk time, and so the map is adjusted automatically for that. But let's just show you the light map here. You can see the route is color changing along the way. So this legend down here shows you that means it represents the passage of time. So the yellow markers and parts of the line are the morning time, and the deep blue and purple is the evening part of the day. So you can see how much time has transpired between individual points. So I think that's really useful. So you can see that went up to the airport and took some pictures at the airport, and we headed out and caught a connecting flight over in Oakland. And again, you can see more of these gray dots mean that along with the location data, there was other data that didn't necessarily have a coordinate at the time, but we were able to restore the location or infer the location because Timelinize has enough data to do that. Like this video that was taken over the ocean. I have no idea where over the ocean we were at the time, but Timelinize has a pretty good idea. So we were about there. And then you can see as the line gets purple, we came into the island and landed, and look, even received an email as we were headed to our place. So this is a really cool way to view things. I want to show you one more thing on the map. Let me fast forward to a day that we did a hike that I particularly enjoyed. I'm going to change this to a satellite view, and you can see that. I'm going to enable three-dimensional map. So this day's a little more complicated. I went to the grocery store and back, and again, you can kind of see that I was sending and receiving text messages while at the store, trying to figure out. I went to 2 stores because I couldn't find what we needed. So let me rotate this here. You can tilt, pan, zoom, rotate. Yeah. So this hike was fabulous, and I can relive this again in great detail. As I click on a marker, I can see all the pictures I took here at this spot, and I can see the terrain. It was pretty rugged, and I've definitely done more rugged, but man, this was a beautiful hike. I wish I could show you the real pictures without the blurring. They looked fake. It was so beautiful. Oh yeah, so we actually were hiking to these waterfalls, but I remember now the torrential rain was so bad that the stream came up so high that we couldn't find the trail anymore, and there was no one to be seen. We hadn't seen anyone for a couple hours, and so it was starting to get evening time, and so we decided to turn around before it got dark. So a bit of a bummer, but we'll have to go back and do that. So this is a really cool way to explore your data and relive your memories. Let me reset the map here. And yeah, so that's the map view. Now let's check out the conversations view. So as you know, Timelinize is not just a photo library. It's not just a map for your location tracks. This here is a list of your recent conversations that you've had with people. And conversations are anything that was sent from someone to someone. So it could be emails or text messages or Facebook messages or anything that was directed to a person or more people. And they all appear in a single stream. So for example, the messages exchanged between Herschel and Cyrus are here in this conversation, regardless of the mode. Here's a group conversation with like 11 people, it looks like. And you can see we've populated that over here by clicking on that. And this happened over Apple Messages. But you can see there's a few duplicates. That's kind of unusual. It's not necessarily wrong. It turns out this is all the same person. Timelinize can't be sure of that though. And so not in all cases. So if you go up to entities, we can fix this. So let's go here. Let's go to entities and we'll try and find that person. So here we are. And all of these almost are the same person, and that's why it's tricky. Can't be sure every time. But most of the time we can actually... Okay, so these three are not that person, but the rest of them are the same person. So I can then click merge, confirm that, and there we go. Yes, there are 4 people here. Okay, so now if we go back to conversations, we see that this group chat is smaller now, and the duplicate messages are gone. So this is really nice. Timelinize can capture reactions in many cases. Multimedia text, a couple of images sent. You can see who reacted and how many people did that reaction. Various types of reactions too, like laughing and thumbs up. Anyway, this box over here is actually really useful too. If I want to, for example, if I click on this conversation, these are the participants in the conversation, and with this checkbox checked, it's showing me the conversation for only these people, so specifically me and this other person. If I uncheck this box, I get a list of all the conversations that involve these 2 people. So these 2 only, these 2, and then a third person, these 2 and many more people, etc. So you can kind of filter, drill down, and there's other filters here too. You can use like full text search and filter by data source and such. So that's the conversations view. Now one more view I want to show you is the gallery. This is your typical photo gallery view. Timelinize also will preserve album information. It doesn't currently expose that in the UI, but it is in the database. So you can see who owns each picture, and you can click on a picture to get kind of a larger preview. This looks like it might be a screenshot. This as well, quite a few screenshots, probably from messages. This might be a photo. Yeah. This looks like a hike image. So if I click on view details, I can see the picture. Oh, maybe this was sent via, this was sent via iMessage. So let's see here. I'm going to filter by data source, and I'm going to choose Google Photos. Get something out of my photo library. Sure, let's do this one. And I can view details. And as you see, the picture also will start playing the motion picture. So you can toggle that with this little play pause up here. This is the actual photograph, and then this is the motion picture that was accompanies it, or a live photo, I think. You can also see who is in the picture. This is really cool for when obfuscation mode is not enabled. It will put a circle around the person's face when importing from Apple Photos. But even Google Photos will at least tell you who's in the picture, just not where. And we capture all the metadata. And all of this is obfuscated right now for demonstration purposes. So this is a great way to kind of preserve your data, and you can download it to get it out of your timeline. But I think it's pretty cool. Different vendors have different ways of storing motion photos. Google and Samsung embed the videos into JPEG files, and Apple has a sidecar video file. Timelinize supports all of that. So those are the 4 main ways to explore your data. You can also do, in the gallery view currently, you can do a similarity search. So those embeddings that were generated after the import finished allow us to search by keyword. This is not super fast at the moment, mostly because we want to filter out irrelevant results. Now I know the images are blurry, but I intentionally chose a search query like deep red sunset so you could see that obviously these are relevant results, and you can see there's a percentage of relevancy that the classifier has chosen for these images. So these are all, in theory, deep red sunsets, and I think that's pretty useful. So that's the bulk of Timelinize. The last thing is really the items page, which is just kind of a raw view. There's not much of a... The Explore pages are all tailored to a specific mode or type of data, and we'll add more. Items is just a list of things in your timeline. So this is useful, and we'll add a ton more filters here. This is just the very tippity top, very beginning. And you can see what you want here. So my Google Photos and iMessage. Notice there's a similar items button, so if you want to find messages similar to this one, you just click that. That won't make any sense with obfuscation mode enabled, so I'll spare you that. But anyway, that's Timelinize. I think that's pretty much everything. So I hope you find this interesting and useful, and we'll hope you'll contribute to its development. We're really just at the tip of the iceberg. This is just proof of concept stage. There's a ton more of work to do, a ton more potential, and there's a lot behind the scenes that I'm excited to show you in other videos and articles. So thanks for watching.